Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Transform Talk. Today, we have a very intelligent and dynamic personality. She is doctor by education. She teaches medical biochemistry at various medical colleges. She is HOD of Doon Medical College, Meerut. She also runs an NGO by the name Pari Foundation. Pari Foundation works on mental health awareness among youth. Pari Foundation is the proud recipient of Dr. B.C. Roy National Award. She is also a parent-child coach, a relationship counselor. She writes articles in various leading newspapers such as Times of India and Hindustan Times. She has received Best Doctor Award from IMA Meerut. So without wasting much time of yours, please welcome Dr. Sona Kaushal Gupta to discuss on the topic Happy Relationships.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sona, for joining this Transform Talk with us. And today with you, we are going to discuss and understand some deep insights about relationship and the consequences of it. So my first question to you is, why is communication is one of the most important aspect of any relationship?
Yes, good evening, everyone. So I'm happy to be here on your platform. As you said, we are going to speak on relationships. And yes, communication is one of the most important tool of a good relationship, right? But coming to that, just let me tell you, two more tools are there with communication. It's trust and it is respect. Trust, honesty, respect, and a good communication. And why good communication is because communication, what exactly is relationship? First, let's understand that. It's a bond between two people. It's a bond between two people, a sort of unsigned contract between two people. And it is something, the two parties can be anything. It can be parents, it can be a husband-wife, it can be a school-teacher relationship, it can be a boss-associate relationship. Today, you and me are talking, this is again a relationship. So relationship is a bond, a contract between two parties. Now, amongst the two people, the only way to get to know each other or to get to understand each other is communication is the most important tool. And let me explain to you in 2 minutes what exactly is communication. Communication is it's not just speaking clearly or speaking softly and speaking politely. Of course, that is there. But added to that, one very important aspect of communication is that we have to keep in mind at all points of time that whatever I am saying when I am one of the party is of course correct. I mean, why I will tell you whatever I'm saying is correct. From my perspective, it's going to be 100% correct. But I have to keep in mind that what I'm hearing from the other person with whom I'm interacting is also 100% correct according to his perspective, his or her perspective. So when I keep that thing in mind, there is no anger because that is called acceptance. I'm accepting the fact that whatever they are saying is correct, although I may not agree with it.
Okay.
Right? So that is communication. But the moment anger comes in, that means ego comes in, then it becomes I am right and you are wrong. And the communication breaks off and it turns into an argument, which is again, or we stop talking to each other.
Yes.
Wow, very wonderful you have explained, ma'am. So अगर मैं बात करूं partners relations की, okay, so how the communication skill can help to build a great relationship between partners, especially about
what
partners.
sort of partners are you? What sort of partners are you saying?
Partners,
Couples.
yeah, spouse relationship.
Couples.
Yes.
You're talking of couples, married couples, right? So I get these are the cases. Yeah, these are the cases which usually come to me. Many of them come to me for counseling. Because there is a rift, there is a conflict, and they are not able to handle it. And then, of course, then argument sets in or they stop talking to each other. And then, of course, there is a lot of stress and anxiety which is built up, and anger which is built up. It disturbs the family, and then they just don't know what to do. So they are so confused that, some of them, the lucky ones, come for counseling, where we sort out their issues, where we empower them to solve their own issues, and everything goes well. So what happens? What happens in couples is that the moment, like, it's a very big shift of a mindset. What I'm trying to tell you, when we were growing up, initially, some years, some decades ago, we were always told to, we have to adjust, and we were always told that opposite attract and those sort of things, and we have to adjust and all that. And love was something which was very, very important in a relationship and all. Over the years, psychology has changed, and a lot of things have changed over the years. What has actually changed, in my view, is that we have to understand, couples have to understand that it's not always about the other person that we are talking about. Like, when the husband comes to me for counseling, they don't usually come together, they come separately. So when the husband comes, it's always about the wife. And when the wife comes, it's always about the husband. He's doing this, or she's doing this. And they want us to sit and agree with them. And they want us to validate their whatever they are saying. And they want us to say, okay, right, you are the one who's aggrieved. And okay, the other partner is the wicked one. And then they feel very happy. So that is ego satisfaction. That is not what is the story today. The story today is that we make it very clear to those couples that we are not here to, set anyone right, or to check anyone, or to correct anyone. Because there are two things. I hope I'm being loud enough. Am I clear?
Yes.
Because there are two things in psychology, two cycles in which we all live. Things in my control and things not in my control. So very much so we have to understand that things in my control is what I think and I feel and how I behave. And things not in my control is how the other person believes or thinks or behaves. So usually couples come to us with an issue of setting the other person right, which is things not in his control. So we have to first awaken them to this fact that here we are talking of empowering you. You have to check yourself. You have to change yourself. It's all about yourself, self-awareness, self-acceptance, change. And when you change the way you behave towards your partner, the whole story shifts. And then your partner reciprocates and starts behaving differently. Of course, communication has to be constant in this whole scenario.
Yes, Sonaji, you're right. But what is been observed is the relationship changes over time. Means the relationship of a couple who are just married and the relationship with 2 years of marriage and 5 years of marriage, it changes over time. So how we should look upon this? And what are the why it means, should it remain constant or it should change? And if it changing, how it should positive impact us, the couple?
See, I firmly believe that all youth should have a session of premarital counseling today. They should awaken to the fact that what the relationship that they are going to enter, how they should adjust to it. Okay, having said that, it's not usually being followed, but that should be the norm. So what happens when a couple is initially married, of course, there is if they know each other, if they have been knowing each other, and if they are, if they understand each other, so they go into a relationship. But knowing each other and having met each other outside of marriage is a real different scene of what it is when they enter into the marriage and they have to stay together. And what happens when they stay together, they'll come to know, initially the focus was only on the good things of the other partner. You loved her, you loved him, you respected him, he was handsome, she was very good looking, and all that, all the good aspects of it. But when they live together, the whole picture changes and the good and the bad all comes in front of them. So what happens is, there is a lot of adjustment to be done, not only at the physical level, not only at the behavioral level, but at the mental level also. That the couples are not able to do. They are not able to adjust. They have not been taught. We have not, our culture is such that we have not been told how to adjust at the mental level. So the adjustment of the mental level means instead of there being control, instead of there being criticism, instead of there being complaining, there should be acceptance.
Okay.
But it's very, very difficult to let go of the control because each partner is trying to change the other partner, and therein lies all the problems.
Yes.
So this is what happens at the initial stage. Gradually, sort of, it becomes a habit. The nagging, it may be nagging, or the other person quietens up, or the other person, adjusts to it mentally. But there is a lot of stress and anxiety inside their mind, and it's not very happy gradually over the time. So initially only if there is a problem and they come to us and we give them the tips, it becomes a happier life later on. So this adjustment at the physical level and adjustment at the mental level for each one doing it on himself, not trying to change the other person, is the story.
Great. Yes, Kavita.
So what do you say on this, ma'am, ki over the period of time, how this relationship has changed and in which areas do you really believe that things have changed actually?
Correct. Over the period, are we still talking of couple relationships?
Yeah.
Yes,
Still talking.
Yeah. So over the period of time, initially what was there, and we all know this story, that initially it was just one person earning. In very few houses, there were two people earning. And there also, there was a lot of bonding in the family. Like, they were not so nuclear. There were a lot of family members in the house.
Yeah.
So things were much easier previously. We were brought up with the idea that ladies have to look after the house and the children, and the men have to earn, and that sort of a thing. And there was acceptance of this. And it is, but over the years, with this gender equality and with women coming up and becoming more educated, which is very good, of course, and they are going into the world and they are earning equally as much as their partners are. And on top of it, the shift in the households is a big shift from, because there is less acceptance in combined families also. There is more rift there. Because again, there is a question of control, and there is a question of trying to, power politics is there in combined families. So they have shifted into nuclear families. So these couples are into nuclear families. They have no support system. They rely on servants. They have no time for each other. They have no time for themselves. The work schedule is so tight and high. And of course, they say that the expenses are so much more. So they are all trying to juggle this life, which is gradually turning very hectic. And many of them are into stress, and they come for counseling.
So how these couples can navigate these changes successfully? What tips we can apply? Like, as you say, that people are shifting into the nuclear family, and due to that, they have a hectic schedule. They are so much self-dependent, and so how we can come out of this successfully? How we can deal with these kind of situations?
The story is, the problems are different in some ways, but the main thing is the same, that there are many problems the newer generation is facing at workplace. Then they're tired. Then at home front, the home chores have to be done. The children have to be looked after. The other family members also have to be looked after. So the problems are more or less the same. It's just that the couples are very confused as to how to adjust and juggle time so that they meet all these problems and their life goes on happily. Just the other day, there was this one lady who had come to me for counseling, and she had married into a family. She had a love marriage according to her, but both the families of the groom and the bride were not accepting this marriage. And now even after some years of marriage, they have 2 children. Still, the family members are so conservative that they're not accepting them. So this lady is into so much stress and guilt and stress, and she's blaming herself, that she feels that she's done something very wrong by getting married by her choice. And she had come to ask me that, have I done something wrong? Should I leave him? Should I take my children and let him be because his family is not accepting me? So, couples are very confused. So my what I try to tell them and how I try to empower each one of them is that they have to prioritize. First of all, they have to prioritize themselves and their happiness. I mean, I should not focus on making my husband or my children happy, and when I am not happy myself. So the prioritization should be first, as I told earlier, on myself. She said, then they asked me that, ma'am, this is being selfish. If I just look after myself first, this is so selfish. But when you go into an aeroplane also, they tell you to put on the oxygen mask on yourself first,
Yes.
and then on your family members and children. So it's not being selfish. It's taking care of yourself, so that if you are a happy or a peaceful or a calm person, only then can your surroundings and your environment be happy and you can work better. So this prioritization of self, physical, we all know. We've all been taught how to eat, sleep. So much of talk is there. How to eat well and a balanced diet and water and minerals and vitamins and all that. Everybody is more or less knows how to be physically fit. But none of us have been taught, or none of us know how to be mentally fit. And mental illness is an epidemic now. It's going to be a bigger epidemic than this corona, a pandemic than corona. Depression is there in 1 in 3 people now. So
Yes.
just imagine, why is this? Because stress is so much there. Why? Because coping strategies, people are not able to cope well with the problems they are facing. Why? Because they are not able to, they don't know how to look after their thought processes. There's a lot of overthinking, there's worry, there's anxiety, there's stress. They're scared. All the time they're thinking what will happen. Half the time they are blaming themselves of what has happened. So all this rigmarole in the mind is leading them into unhappiness, and an unhappy mother or an unhappy father cannot have a happy home or a happy children. So that unhappiness is going to pour out in their behavior and the way they interact with the other person, and overall everything goes bad, bad to worse. So what I teach them is yourself. So empowering themselves, empowered parenting, empowered couple coaching. That is my strategy. So when each one empowers themselves to be happy, calm, peaceful, and we teach them these tools and tricks how to do it, only then can they adjust, mentally and physically to the outer stressors.
Yes.
Other than that, I also tell them that marriage is, of course, they should not be guilt of living with families and all. They should prioritize themselves and their family, their husband, their wife, and not let significant others enter into their private domain of decision making or interfere into their private domain of moving on in life, which is happening very much nowadays.
Yes. Sonaji, you mentioned about role of this trust factor. So what is the role of trust in good relationships?
As I said, what I feel is a relationship has a balance. It's a tripod. It's a tripod of 3 things. 3 main things, of course, other things are all there. Supplements are there. So there is trust, there is respect, and there is communication. And with that comes honesty and being clear and being, and love and all that follows. So what is trust, according to me, is, having so much transparency with each other in what we are doing or thinking or behaving, being so clear with each other that there should be no speck of suspicion about anything about each other in our mind. Because suspicion is like a termite. It eats up the relationship.
Yes.
And suspicions do come. They will come in every relationship. They will come. They are natural. So the only way to deal with them is talk it out again. Here communication comes in. So whenever there is some suspicion or there is some sort of inquiry or something, They should be open, and the only way to do it is to sit down and talk about it, and share their feelings and their work and whatever they are doing with each other, so that that suspicion is wiped up there and then, and there should be blind trust in each other. Only then will there be respect, and only then will love follow.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so Dr. Sona, one more question for you. As we are talking about relationships, so how do you think that respect is also equally important ingredient to make a happy relationship?
Respect is also a very important gradient, because with respect comes love, affection, and compassion, and belongingness and satisfaction. So respect is, there should be no abuse, there should be no anger, there should be no, now abuse can be verbal, it can be emotional, it can be physical. So any sort of abuse in a relationship, especially in a marriage, is a big no. I call it the cancer of a relationship. So I always advise couples that if there is any abuse, say no the first time. The very first time, raise your hand and say no. It will not be tolerated. Because if unknowingly, or just because of any in just being compliant, I just give way to the other person being abusive to me, or verbally, or maybe emotionally, and then later on I try to stop it, it becomes very difficult, because the person who has been doing it, the bully, he feels that he has the right to be abusive. So the very first day it should be censored, and we empower the person who is being abused how to stand up to it. So, and this should be taught right to children, that they should say no to any sort of abuse right from childhood only, right? Now, in a marriage specifically, so what I feel is that no matter what the conversation is, when there is no anger or aggression or ego, or it's not an argument, so of course there will be respect. Automatically there will be respect. But if there is any sort of if there are any anger issues in it, and there is, the person becomes violent or abusive, then that leads to further complications, right? So therefore, it should be a very important parameter. We should always teach children to be respectful to the partner. That is one thing. The other thing is that another thing which comes to me for counseling is when people, the thing you asked me about suspicion. So they are suspicious of infidelity, or they're suspicious of somebody having affairs, and that's a very common thing nowadays, of partners, being into illegal affairs with others, So these suspicions are ruining marriages, and they're leading into a lot of divorces. So the only thing which can, I always tell that extramarital affairs are another cancerous thing in a marriage. So they come to me with big stories of why they are there, and they try to justify their action. But again, it's a big no. You cannot travel. We teach them, we tell them, we empower them that you cannot travel anywhere with 2 feet in 2 boats. You'll fall down. So you have to choose. You have to choose where do you want to go, and you have to stick to it. And of course, a marriage, it's always, I feel personally, it's my view, that a marriage, it's always best to work more on your marriage than leaving it and going into another affair, because then you go with a lot of baggage there, emotional baggage, hurt and guilt and all that. And the other partner may also be carrying that amount of baggage. So it becomes a very difficult marriage then to counsel them. Again, they come with more issues. So again, that's why respect, no abuse, and no extramarital affairs. This is something which is a must in a marriage and in a relationship.
Now, something different I will talk about. It's about the technology. Today we are using WhatsApps. Today we are using many social media platforms, and due to that, many relationships are getting spoiled. If anybody is not liking my post, the relationship is spoiled. If anybody is talking something on my message, relationship. So what is the role of technology on relationships?
So you've just mentioned, so there are 2 aspects of your query which I would like to clear. First of all, it should be very clear to us that, and we should tell this to everyone, that whatever we are putting on the social media, even if it is deleted, it is there as a footprint always and forever.
Okay.
It's always there. It's there. It can be retrieved. So we should be very careful of what we are putting there and what we are saying to the other person.
Okay.
So that should be very clear in our mind. And having said that, keeping all the cyber security and everything in our mind, whatever we are putting, we should be very clear and safe in our mind that whatever is there will never be deleted. It's a footprint. It's a cyber footprint on the social media. When you know that, you'll be careful with whatever you're putting there. And the other aspect is that, of course, social media is now this mobile phone. This mobile phone is an atom bomb in our hands. That is what I tell people. Like it is like a knife. It has two edges,
Yes.
sharp edges. There is the good points, which is inevitable. We need it because to go ahead in our lives, for our communication, to meet people, and for technology and for learning and for so many things. And but the other aspect is that too much of everything is always bad. So what is that too much? That line should be drawn, because people are becoming addicts to this social media. Children are becoming addicts. They are going into wrong sites and learning things which they are not able to understand. And that's leading to into a lot of psychological and mental health illnesses. So we have to be aware of how much we have to see it, what we have to see. This mobile phone was initially made for communication. Then the smartphone came along, and that smartphone, to my belief, was there for learning purposes. So if you keep it as an educative platform, it's good. But the moment you turn it into an entertainment platform, and there is a whole lot of entertainment there, which is some of it is really harmful and bad to our mental health. So children are hooked onto it. Parents don't know. Parents themselves are hooked onto it, because that scrolling is an addiction. And addiction is pathological. Drug addiction and social media addiction. We call it substance abuse now, because this addiction is substance abuse. Why? Because it's giving the same effects of drug abuse addictions, the same effect. The same neurotransmitters are are released into our brain with this addiction than the same as those with drugs. Like when you're scrolling or when you're putting up something, you get this spike of dopamine because somebody likes it. Somebody likes your post. Spike of dopamine. That dopamine spike from the social media has come to you, and it motivates you and you feel good. But that goodness has been substituted by the good you should have felt by achieving something academically or learning something. When you learn something or you achieve something academically, or you perform or you're creative, so that goodness, that dopamine release has been replaced by the likes which we are getting here. So then, of course, we are gradually falling into addictions of this, because we want more likes, more posts, more more dopamine, more likes. So gradually we are becoming slaves to this. And it's ruining relationships. It's ruining our minds. It's ruining our physical, mental, social, and our emotional health.
Okay. Great. Sona ji, you also run an NGO named Pari Foundation. Can you tell more about that foundation?
I'm a medical doctor, and I passed out from the Medical College of KGMU, Lucknow. Now, when I passed out, when I did my MBBS, then of course I did my post-graduation in pathology and then in medical biochemistry. And I went into the field of teaching medical students. So even while I was studying there, I had a fascination for mental health, because many of students in the medical college are in stress and they go into depression over the exams. Lately, you have seen the incidences in Kota also, how many students are, ending up their lives in an institution which is preparing them for competitive exams. Over the years, after I passed out and I went into my profession, into the hospital, working as a doctor, I went into the field of teaching medical students. And when I was teaching them, and I'm a professor of the medical biochemistry, many of stress and anxiety was so evident on the faces of children. We medical students face a lot of stress and anxiety because there are so many exams and so many vivas, and nobody ever teaches us how to be happy or how to be stress-free. We are always, it's always one after exam and then patients. So it's a very stressful life. So nobody, and that mental health aspect was always fascinating to me. So when I came into my profession and I was there, I wanted to do something for people. My children were growing up, their parents were confused about their behaviors, adolescent behaviors. I was also watching behaviors of children, adolescent children in and around my house. So I wanted to do something. So I built, I needed a platform, and I was not able to get a platform. It's not very easy to go and enter somewhere, you have. So I built my own platform and I called it Psychological Assistance and Rehabilitation in Children, PARI. It's an acronym. And under this platform, then of course I registered it under the NGO Act. And now I go and I give workshops, seminars, talks. We have interactive sessions to as many schools or children, wherever we can. So these are massive institutions, and we've been awarded the BC Roy National President Award for the social work which we have been done. And it was mainly about saying no to drug abuse and stress. So drug abuse and addictions is so rampant, social media and otherwise also. So once a person is addict, that is pathologically his mind is sick. Now to get him out of that addiction is very, very difficult. It's a tough task. My NGO works on preventive measures. We go and empower children how to say no to drug abuse, how not to fall into addictions.
Yes.
So it's a very rewarding and a self-satisfying job. And other than that, I'm a trained counselor, therapist, and I do a lot of one-to-one counselings and therapy also.
Okay, great. So it was very nice talking to you, Sona, today. So Kavita, you can conclude this talk.
Yes, absolutely, no doubt. So, Dr. Sona, we have understood many things about relationship, and as you said in the starting, and only that any relationship is just an unsigned contract of trust and respect with each other. So, until we are able to maintain this, any relationship can go well. And also, you have said that nowadays how people are facing a lot of mental illness and stress, maybe in a couple relationship or also in other relationships. So these are the rising situation that is coming up in our like in today's generation. So how we can deal with that is clear communication, as you said, that for any relationship, if we want to come out of any problems and difficulties they are facing with each other, the best solution can be the clear communication, so that we can understand each other better. So I think that's the guru mantra you have given for every happy relationship. So yes, it was wonderful connecting with you, and the work what you are doing for making the society stress free and all this is really appreciable. So it was great interacting with you, Dr. Sona, and I think in future also we will be connecting you. And thank you so much for making time to come in this Transform Talk.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege.